Hi everyone, how are you? In this tutorial we are gonna talk about JavaScript event listeners. So first we are gonna begin with events. Events are things that happen to a HTML element or elements, generally when the user interacts with them. But to listen to those events, we need to use event listeners. Some examples of these events are clicking a button, when the user clicks a button, or when an input change, or when the user scrolls down, or the submission of a form, when the Windows is resized, when the user presses enter or any other key. There are a lot of events that some of them we want to handle. So what are event listeners? Event listeners are functions that when called keep listening to an event to happen. For example, here we have a button that we are listening to a click event. So when the user clicks this button with a class btn, this function will show hello in the console, and this is an event handler. But what are event handlers? An event handler is the way that the application have to react when an event was triggered. And that is what we want to use. We want to call a function, an anonymous function or an arrow function like this, or other function, just to handle the event. Now we are gonna see a real life example with this, that is a form that I prepared in CodePen. So we want to listen to the submission of this form, but we don't want this error to happen. So to avoid that, we will first select this form that it has the ID of form. To do that, I'm going to declare a constant named form, very original, and I'm going to select by get element by ID. The ID is form. Easy to remember. So with the form selected, now we want to listen to the event of the submission, because if we remember, we have this error right here that says not found. So to handle this, you're gonna write form that add event listener. When we add an event listener, we need first to write the event. In this case, because it is a form, most of the cases, we want to use the submit event and then call a function. That in my case, because I like arrow functions, I'm gonna use one arrow function. This E stands for the event, that in this case is the submission. I'm gonna do event dot prevent default. We use this every time we want to avoid the, well, as the text says, prevent the default behavior of that event. So if we save this, when we click on this submit button, we can see that the error is gone. Nothing happens right now. But when we want to show this alert right here, I defined this paragraph after this button. So if we select this by creating a constant named alert, it will be equal to document query selector and the class name that is alert. So we want to see if we have selected the paragraph right. So I'm going to show it to the console. Console.log alert. We have the console right here. We have a lot of errors that I think that are already solved. So clear the console and click on the submit button, and now we can see here the paragraph with the class alert. Great. So now we don't want to show this to the console, so what we want to do is to change the inner HTML of the paragraph to show us a message. So alert.inner HTML will be equal to your message was sent. Something like that. We will save this, and when we submit, we can see our message right here. That's great. But we don't want our message to stay here forever. So if we fill this form and we submit, nothing happens right now. We don't want this message to be all the time right there. So there is a function called setTimeout, and the first parameter of this function is the function that we want to run. In this case, we want to set the inner HTML of the alert before the setTime function. And here, after I think 3 seconds, we are gonna do other thing that will be remove all the content from the alert after 3 seconds. This is the technique I use when I want to show an alert just for 3 seconds in this case. So let's see. The message disappears after 3 seconds. That's great. But something else, an error that we have here is that I think it is not cool, because when we submit, it thinks I think that the form was not submitted because my data is still here, my information, and I don't want that to happen. So we want to select the form again and use the reset method that every form has, sorry, that it works. It is just for this, just for remove all the elements from the form, erase all inputs. So it is working. You can see our message here that I can stay a little longer. Great, we're gonna save this pin. That's great. So this is everything. Here we created a little function. I'm gonna provide to you this example so you can see the code. And that's everything. I hope you could learn something about events, event listeners, event handlers. So here we created an event handler function. This was the event and this is the event listener. Thank you guys. Have a great week.